And yes, look, I met her when I was 22 and working for the senior Bush for 41. And anybody who thinks that she has not over the years had an opinion that she shared with her husband and that her husband has taken into account is kidding themselves. This was a true partnership. And if you want to get more of it, just read. He did a collection of his letters, and in there, writing to friends or family, or even to her, you can get a sense of what a true partnership this was, and how much he depended upon her wise counsel.
It was remarkable, and you mentioned that. Of course, George Bush Sr. was way ahead of having a constructive response to the growing AIDS crisis. Her son, of course, President Bush, of course, was endeared to many in the AIDS community. Even Bono said that he did a great deal to help deal with that scourge, and that's something you don't often hear of Republicans. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, in fact, tonight I'm going to be in Dallas with 43 as Bono is being honored for his work on the global AIDS activity in Africa. And
amazing.
You're right, this was a deep, passionate commitment of President Bush 43 to make certain that America used its great compassion to confront a continent that was melting down under AIDS in Africa.
You know, Karl, I still have you. When Maria Bartiromo, my colleague, was interviewing George and Laura Bush, it was just a side comment, but it was shocking to me when Laura Bush said that she had met with Melania Trump at the White House. And we traced that back just a couple of months into the Trump presidency. Now, of course, there's a lot of back and forth and bad blood, as is always the case in campaigns, and a heated race that involved Jeb Bush and a lot of nastiness between he and Donald Trump, et cetera. But I was surprised at that Laura Bush, quietly met with Melania, maybe talking about raising a child in the White House, how difficult that is, or whatever. We don't know the details of that, nor should we, I guess, at this point. But what did you make of that?
Well, look, every president benefits, if they want, from the wisdom of their predecessors. I know it was an enormous comfort to President Bush 43 not only to be able to talk to his father, but also to have an open and cordial relationship with his immediate predecessor, President Clinton. And I think it was a magnificent gesture on Melania Trump's part to invite Laura Bush, but it was also great for Laura Bush to be able to help her think through the issues. Because, look, nothing prepares you to move into the White House. And to be able to talk to somebody who has lived through this and has had, in the case of Laura and George Bush, teenage and college-age children while you're in the White House is really important. And I know the family's delighted. Mrs. Trump is coming to the celebration tomorrow at St. Martin's Church in Houston. Awfully nice of her to make time to do so.
I don't want to belabor that issue, but I am curious because behind-the-scenes stuff, and that one, the case with Laura Melania, did surprise me. But there was a lot of bad blood in the campaign, and most of the candidates who ran against Donald Trump have made amends. Ted Cruz, and praising peace, and this Time 100 list that's out, in which the president's included, and a host of others. Rand Paul works constructively at the White House. Not so Jeb Bush, and that ill will still seems to persist. But give it time. What do you think?
Well, look, Donald Trump has made clear his opinions, and President Bush, he believes that everybody's entitled to their opinion. But it's, remember, Donald Trump is the guy who said George Bush had advanced knowledge in 9/11 and didn't act on it and allowed 3,000 people to die. That George W. Bush was lied deliberately about the presence of WMD in Iraq, who said after helping elect Nancy Pelosi Speaker, he said in 2007 he was very happy with her performance, except she hadn't done enough to impeach George W. Bush. So those are sort of hard things. Now, I know President Bush 43, his attitude is, look, I've had my time in the public sphere, and I gave it my best, and, he doesn't pay attention to that kind of stuff. Others maybe like people like me do, but he has this enormous ability to get past things like that, and it's up to, if President Trump wants to pick up the phone and call him, I'm sure President Bush would respond to him, but he knows that he's out of the flow of the information, and just like his dad was reluctant to offer up opinions without having access to that same rich flow of information, he too is reluctant to do that, and let the man in the job. He's got enough on his shoulders already. No need to jump in and be calling things from the sidelines.
Very magnanimous of you, my friend. Let's step back. I don't know if you heard Charlie Gasparino before. He was talking about what's a conga line of Democrats lining up to run for president. I always liken this to, it could rival my Italy here, where you have like 700 guys running at once. But it's going to be close, it seems. What do you know what the record is, Mr. Historian, and what we're looking at in 2020?
Well, the record, the formal record, is actually the Republicans in 2016 was 17, but I bet you that there end up being more people, more serious people filing to run for the Democratic nomination than that. And it's going to be a different kind of a format because California, Kamala Harris has gotten California to move early. So we've been used to, Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, and, Florida and so forth. But California is going to intrude into that process early. And
just to explain, if that's the case, if California goes early and that she would be the beneficiary of that, that's a lot of delegates.
Well,
she piles up very quickly, right?
Yeah, and so could Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, who otherwise might not be a player. So we don't know how. And look, there are going to be 10,000 different changes in this between now and the time it begins to ramp up in 2015. The other states are going to move their primaries and caucuses, and the delegation rules are going to change with regard to superdelegates and so forth. And the ability to raise money and to get a winning message is going to be really critical for any of these people, because Donald Trump had a unique ability to tap into the media. We have no guarantee that there's going to be anybody else who's going to be able to run the kind of campaign that he ran with not much money and virtually no organization and a ragtag group flying around on his plane and dominating via Twitter and social media. We're not guaranteed that that's going to be replicable upon the Democratic side.
Would Joe Biden be at least the most recognizable front runner?
Yes, right now the polls show that he is the front runner, and a lot of it is name ID. The question is going to be, at the end of the day, do the Democrats choose somebody who is, sort of Bernie Sanders hard left, or are they going to choose somebody who is more towards the center of American politics, or at least appears to be more close to the center of American politics, like a Joe Biden? But who that's going to be, is anybody's guess, and sort of premature, because we got a big election in 2018 to focus on. But 2020 is going to be a magnificent scramble on the Democratic side that I think will dwarf the 17 candidates that the Republicans had last time.